Hi, welcome to another episode of Real Talk, Come Follow Me. Ganel-Lyn and I are thrilled you're here.
We are.
We are doing Doctrine and Covenants 23 through 26, Strengthen the Church.
Strengthen the church.
So now the church is organized, how do we strengthen the church? And this gets kind of interesting.
Because it's a living, breathing entity, right? So it's imperfect, it's ups, downs, all the things.
Yeah, all sorts of interesting influences. And I love starting off like right in section 23. I see the word Hiram Smith. If you've watched some of the other episodes.
You have a love.
I love Hiram. And so right off the bat, it says in there for Hiram that his tongue is loosed. And this is in reference to section 11, verse 21, which was about 11 months before this. Hiram is anxious to engage in the work, and he receives a revelation. It's the one that over and over says, be patient, wait a minute. Don't seek to declare my word yet, but first seek to obtain my word, and then shall your tongue be loosed.
So he was told, fill up the well, and then you're going to be preaching.
Yes, so now it's like a restoration announcement. Hiram Smith is now unleashed on the world. As of when this came out, April 1830, so when the church is organized. Now it's time for Hiram's ready, prepared. He went through his MTC experience, and now he can go out to the world, which I love.
And section 23 is actually involving 5 different individuals, and it's combined into one. So 5 different men, and it's one section. And Oliver Cowdery in verse 1 right away gets a warning to beware of pride, lest thou shouldest enter into temptation. But this warning for Oliver did not apply to Hiram. Hiram was under no condemnation, as you can see in verse 3. So he's good. I'm wondering if that meant all the other 4 really needed the same counsel of warning on pride. And I was pondering a little bit about pride, and I love what Elder Uchtdorf says. We included it in the Real Talk Journal. He said the sin of pride is the sin of pride, as is the sin of comparison. And I think that is such a great, helpful reframe, because I don't know if when we talk about pride, we consider comparisons or the sin of comparing ourselves in the same way. And I wonder, we were talking about this a little bit, where we both can slip into comparisons. Let's just be honest. There's about 1 million Come Follow Me shows.
There are.
Did you know that?
We've been counting.
So people are always like, so you have a Come Follow Me show? I'm like, yep, we do. And so do 1.57 million people. Is that an actual number?
Yeah,
I don't think
it is. It's perfect.
Right. But we know that we're trying to do what the Lord has called us to do. And I consider a little bit of what we know about Oliver's history, how often he was maybe snagged with the idea of comparison, that he wanted to have his mission look and feel like who he saw around him. Yeah. And I was thinking about how unique we each have the opportunity to share our gifts, do our mission, bring our light, share our light, and what a loss it would be if we were all trying to be the same. And here for us on the show, we're really trying to be clear about what we uniquely contribute in the space of Come Follow Me. And so just for the opportunity to have conversations in your family, if you're single, journaling in the journal about where you're getting snagged on comparisons, reframing it a little bit, that pride it shuts you down if you get too caught in that comparison trap. So I just appreciated Elder Uchtdorf kind of calling that out.
Yeah, and that talk was so good when he talks about
2010.
Pride in the priesthood. It was such a good talk. And I actually, as you were saying that, I just thought, wouldn't it be great if instead of the word temptation, you just put the word comparison in? Because it would say, beware of pride, lest thou shouldst enter into comparison, or enter into anger, or irritability, or frustration, or whatever the temptation is for you that goes too far.
We talked about it last week, right, on Real Talk, about temptations really being the trigger. And so I wonder what more maybe Oliver could have contributed if he wasn't so often snagged. I'm not trying to judge, because I do the same thing, and I know it can stop us in all of our endeavors. And I appreciate that the Lord is trying to warn us about the trap.
And if I can say one thing, this is an interesting one, and I know that we have this in our professions. I'll just tell you in mine, like the faculty that I teach on, of seminary teachers, I think I've mentioned this, we're the largest seminary in the world.
Bracelets?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we have these bracelets from
Skyridge. Shout out to Skyridge.
Yeah, exactly. So the look unto me in every thought, doubt not, fear not. And so anyway, I think there's 14 teachers there. And that's
massive.
A huge blessing. because we're teaching almost 2,600 students. But it can also, it's interesting sometimes I find myself, well, I'm not as good as that teacher. I can't connect in that way with those students. And it's been interesting as I've come back to and just said, you know what though, but maybe that's not why I'm here.
Right.
I'm not here to, I teach about 185 to 190 students every 4 months or 5 months. And it's like, I'm not going to connect with all of them. God doesn't even expect that of me. And so I do the best I can within my personality, my perspective, and my passion. And then I just have to be okay with whatever they don't get. They're going to move on to other classes and get that from another teacher. I'll give you a great example. My son, I taught him all first semester. He's a freshman. And so he was in my class, which is such a goofy thing to do. I'm like, why would you? Anyway, one day he broke out a full-on 2 liter of soda. He just opened it and started drinking it in the middle of class.
Is he going to be happy, Luke, that we're talking about him?
I don't care.
Okay.
He did it to me. I was like, you can't just open a 2 liter and start drinking it in the middle of class. But it was so funny. I was like, yeah, keep going. Do you need a straw? Anyway, but now he's in a new class. And to be quite honest with you, he has gotten a lot more in the first few months of that class than he did in the 4 months with me. And part of me, when you think of comparison, there can be a lot of pride in that. Like, wait a second, that's my kid.
Right.
But he came home like the 4th day of class with this burning testimony of Joseph Smith that I have not heard him bear. He comes home and says, Dad, it's still I just feel.
Wow.
And he's never had that in my lessons. And so if I'm not careful, I just think, man, even in that case, I just need to let go and say, God is working with my son. Why do I care where it's coming from?
Right.
Like, what's going on in my own mind?
We're laughing and joking about this, but it can paralyze me if I'm not careful, because I do want to uniquely contribute in the world. And I remember having a conversation, I think Tony Sweat will be okay with this, but he is such a brilliant teacher, but he's also a brilliant artist.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we want to put people in boxes and say, well, you're this, and you're this, and you're this kind of, and I'm so glad that Tony Sweat is like, I'm going to be my unique self, and I'm not going to try to follow this, it's staying in our lane and really being vertically connected so that God can say, stay there and don't go into the pride. So I appreciate that conversation. I think it will be helpful. Do you have anything you want to share on anything else on this section before we move on?
I don't. I just love the next few sections.
Okay. He's like, okay, are we going to get there?
Next one.
He's excited.
This is where context matters. This is where the Doctrine and Covenants can be extremely disconnecting and boring if you don't know the storyline.
Right.
And these 2 sections, 24 and 25, one's mostly to Joseph and Oliver, then 25 is to Emma. But you've got to know what's going on because it creates a storyline that you can fit this in. And so these are some of the highlights, lowlights of what's happening.
Right.
So the church was just organized. This is a few months later. So late June of 1830. Emma, Joseph and Polly Knight, and I think like 10 other people, they have their baptismal date set. And so what they would do is they went to a nearby river and they would dam it, just like a temporary dam, so it would fill up enough so they could get baptized in the water the next day.
Full immersion.
Yeah, by immersion. And so they do all that, but late that night or early the next morning, a local reverend and some of his congregation members tear it down. And so they can't get baptized. And so that happens, and then they end up kind of like doing it again, and they end up getting baptized the next day. Anyway, and then you just start thinking, how bad could it get? Like, that's kind of frustrating. But then this happens. So they baptize, and fun fact, Oliver baptizes all of them. Joseph didn't baptize Emma.
Interesting.
Oliver was going to baptize him. Joseph was going to confirm him. And so they baptized him the following morning, and then that afternoon they all gathered together. I think it was in the Knight's home to do the confirmations, but a mob starts to show up outside, about 50 people. Just
like you want for your baptism
day.
Yeah,
so if you think you had a bad baptism day, I don't know, maybe you probably have, but that was a rough one.
Three dunks.
Yeah, so anyway, and then what ends up happening, Joseph gets arrested. So Joseph gets arrested before he can confirm Emma. On Emma's baptism day, Joseph gets arrested. I think he spends 2 days, he gets tried and then acquitted, and then he gets arrested again by the next county, tried of similar charges and acquitted again. And so they end up having to leave Colesville and go back to Harmony so Joseph can finally confirm these people. And so in section 24 in the section heading, it says that the persecution had become intense. Like that's what they mean.
Understatement.
Yeah, understatement. When they say intense. And so that's kind of where these come from. So especially when you get to section 25, to me, that's got to feel
understand.
So validating to Emma. You just like, that day turned out way worse than you ever expected it. And it's evidence that God sees Emma and understands what she's going through. And so that to me makes section 25
means so much
way more meaningful
right.
than just then let's talk about an elect lady. No, let's talk about this elect lady and how God views her.
So before we jump into D&C 25, section 24/7.
24/7.
24/7 is the way you're going to remember it.
Yes.
24/7. For thou shalt devote all thy service in Zion, and in this thou shalt have strength. So it's a call for 24/7. We're building Zion.
Yep.
And it brought to mind the idea of what President Kimball talks about and how we can build Zion. He says, and he shared this in 1978, that first we eliminate selfishness, which if we're going to be of one heart, one mind, there's not a lot of room for selfishness, but we're human, so it's going to creep up. Number 2, cooperate completely. And number 3, sacrifice, broken heart, and contrite spirit, and consecrating our time and talents and following the whisperings of the Spirit. That's kind of a review of how we can build Zion. And it brings to mind, I know Sheehan watches the show, and I'm going to try not to cry. Okay, now I'm going to cry already. Sheehan's just been a gift, a neighbor, and now he's moving. And so I think I feel it more tenderly. We've had a lot of conversations about building Zion this year. And Sheehan's had some very unique life experiences that I tell him he needs to be a Lifetime movie because it's so extreme you wouldn't believe me if I kind of gave you the highlights. And one day we were having a conversation because he had felt like he had checked off all these boxes and done all that he can to prepare and to build Zion. What does it look like? And I invited him to follow the whisperings of the Spirit on a daily basis. And he was like, but what does that look like? And we all wonder, like, how do we build Zion? Give me a checklist, give me a calling, give me something so I know what I'm doing and that I'm building Zion. And he reached out to confirm my son's cell phone number. And just on a really personal level, he's mentoring and ministering to Cam in a time where Cameron's trying to figure some things out, and he very much admires Sheehan and what Sheehan has done with his life. And as a mom, like, obviously you can feel my emotion. For me, this is building Zion. Like, it's the one-on-one as Elder Bednar invites us to do. It's following the whisperings of the Spirit, reaching out to a neighbor kid. It's taking a friend to lunch. It's serving in your primary calling when no one notices that that's happening. To me, that's the process of building Zion, and it's creating in us a one heart and one mind experience, and it doesn't always feel like it's momentous and it's really doing something, but just a shout out to a neighbor that's doing that in a way that is an answer to a mom's prayer, and it means a lot.
See, and that's what I love about that verse, because I think we have this predefined, what does it mean to build Zion? Oh, it means to, have a calling. It means to always speak in church. It means to this, it means to that. And we define it so rigidly within only church activity parameters, and it's far greater than that.
It's eliminating the personal and the one-on-one.
Yeah.
Okay, are we ready?
Well, let me do one thing real quick in section 24, just because I think this is really validating for me, and I'm just going to say it and then we'll leave it and move, because we need to talk about Emma.
Yes.
But just imagine being Joseph, and so verse 7, devote all your strength to Zion. Like
24/7.
24/7. What do you do 24/7? But then it says this, I almost imagine this, and it's not, but imagine this almost like a patriarchal blessing if this was in yours. And you're like, where's the promises? Well, listen to these ones. Verse 8, be patient in affliction, for thou shalt have many. Be like, no, start over.
Move on.
Cut, start back. We're not doing that one. So first of all, there's going to be a lot of pain in your life. And then if you go to verse 9, and in temporal labors thou shalt not have strength. You're going to have pain and you're going to be poor. It's like, thanks a lot for that, right?
I'm excited.
Yeah, wow, thank you. And so anyway, but the great thing is what's right in between those two. There's a third promise, it's in the middle of it. And I think that's on purpose. So it says, be patient in afflictions, for thou shalt have many, but endure them, for lo, I am with thee, even to the end of thy days. And so I love how it's just pain, poverty, but I'm here. And there's something about the promise that you have seen me in your pain and poverty already, that will continue, but you will continue to see me and I will be with you. There's something to me that just feels like when God says that, it makes a huge difference.
And ironically, we were both trying to think of examples.
Yeah.
We both put in our show notes, personal story, blank.
Question mark.
And we didn't plan that.
Yeah.
And we were like, and so then we said, well, maybe when we get on set, we're going to know a personal story. We still don't have one.
I don't have one.
And so in my mind's eye, as I prayed to know what to share, I saw like a series of, in a cartoon where you see the character walking and then like the can of paint's going to fall and the door is going to slam and someone's helping them so that doesn't happen. I think when I see the movie of my life, the Lord's going to be like, and there, and there, and there, and there. I was in the middle of all of it and you didn't even know.
Yeah.
I was saving you every single day. So I just want to express to heaven my gratitude for all the ways in which you saved me and you're in the middle of it. Okay.
And we missed.
And we miss it.
All
DNC
right.
25. Emma Smith.
Why don't you take it away and give us some thoughts on Emma?
I knew that Scott would want me to kind of go clear in on this a little bit because I feel like it's such a beautiful example of the context you shared, what Emma had gone through with rumors, with Joseph being in and out of jail and arrested, struggles with her pregnancy, losing her family relationships. This was not easy. And because of that, I think DNC 25, as it says, blessed because of her willingness to suffer persecution in support of her prophet husband, Emma cries and questions where the Lord is in all of this. And sometime around this time when the revelation came, I think it's that the Lord is calling her directly by name, as you said. It's the Lord's way of saying, I see you, I know your situation, I know what is your experiences and the struggles that you're having. The word elect is defined in the 1828 Webster as one chosen or one set apart. And think about the culture of the time. When you're reading DNC section 25, realize that women weren't voting, they weren't holding office, they weren't owning property. If they made any money, it went to their husbands. So Doctrine and Covenants section 25 is revolutionary. Yeah. It's ahead of its time, and the Lord is celebrating this woman, this elect woman. I think it's important to realize that we have, all of us, a call, because Section 25 is an invitation to all of us, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To celebrate the elect women in our lives. And I think about you and how you celebrate your wife. I feel like you celebrate me. I think of my husband, who is brilliant at that. Brother Brad Wilcox is someone that has celebrated me from day one. I think of women in my life that celebrate me. My mom, who is like devoted to any content I put out in the world, she celebrates it. I think it's such a beautiful example that we have a prophet today that's celebrating women. President Nelson has said that we need you. We need your strength, your conversion, your conviction, your ability to lead, your wisdom, and your voices. We simply cannot gather Israel without you. So I hope if ever there's a week that we get to celebrate the elect women in our lives, it's this week. This is the anniversary of my sister's passing 7 years ago. And I want to publicly say that my life isn't better without her. And so if you're watching this and you're not sure you're an elect woman, I hope you know that your unique contributions are needed. That the prophet of God on earth today is saying that we need you. And that's a call that I just wanted to boldly say.
Thank you. I just felt like, I don't know, as I sit here and listen to you, Ganel-Lyn, talk about all of this, it's just what President Nelson said and what you've said. The feeling I have is probably the same feeling that Emma had when the Lord gave her this revelation in her moment of need, and I really appreciate that. And I think you're absolutely right, because Emma and Joseph were more of a non-traditional family. She was the educated, she brought the wealth. Joseph was a hard worker and he had his own strengths, but they were interesting in that respect. And I appreciate that the Lord values, he saw her and he noticed all that she could contribute.
And her unique contributions, specifically in hymns, and her talent with music. I
Yeah.
love that we don't share, we're not going to sing because that's not our gift.
No, not at all.
The Lord was calling her by name and asking her personally to share her unique gift and not try to be like anyone other than who she came to earth to be. And that's an invitation, as we were saying, for all of us. So I hope you feel the spirit of this week as we invite you in our invitation this week to include women maybe in the circle of influence that you have, to consider writing or texting an elect lady that you know and expressing to them your appreciation for the impact that they've had in your life. I know for me, my love language is words of affirmation. So when someone tells me they appreciate me or they value something that I have contributed, it means everything. And so we hope that this week, if you can share on social media the elect ladies in your life and the impact that they've had in your life, we would love to celebrate them with you. And we'll see you again next week here on Real Talk. Come follow me.